Sellers are retreating from the Georgia market, and what does that mean for buyers? Welcome back. We are here again this week, and we have my business partner, Ashley Lazarian, with us. Welcome, Ashley.
Thanks, Sarah. Glad to have you back from Mega Camp last week.
I know. It was a lot of fun. A short, quick little trip, and it was fun getting to learn all the things that are going on in the real estate market and what agents are doing across the country. And one of the topics that we discussed and something that came up was the housing market is causing all kinds of things to happen right now. And one of those things that are happening is that we are seeing sellers start to retreat and pull back from the housing market.
That's right. And I got to say, it's a little bit painful.
Yeah. So tell me, how is that showing up working with our buyers right now? How are we seeing this in our business?
So it's tough. Obviously, with buyers, inventory is already limited significantly. That has not changed. And so I've actually had a couple of times where I've shown multiple homes to a client. They found the home that they like and they want and they love. And we put in an offer, full price, give them everything they ask for. And the sellers then say, I'm so sorry. I haven't been able to find a home. I can't accept your offer. And so now our clients, the buyers, are absolutely devastated because we've been searching. We found the one. And now the sellers are like, just kidding. Sorry, you can't have it.
Yeah, and so that's something that we're not only seeing here locally, but it's a trend that's showing up across the country as well. I am going to share this article from Redfin, and that article states that more sellers are retreat amid falling prices. So one of the things that we're seeing is that sellers are kind of stuck in this expectation of what they could get for their house sale back in January and February, and they're still expecting to get that on the market in today's market. And sadly, today's market is not what it was back in January and February.
That's right. Yeah. And we've definitely had to have a lot of conversations, especially with sellers that we are representing when we're talking to them about what we're going to list their home for, because obviously the last 2 years has kind of been a whirlwind of a market. And it's something that you nor I have seen before. You were just at Mega Camp. Gary Keller, who's been in this business since the early 80s, was saying he's never seen anything like this. So we're definitely having to have those conversations and just educate people of where the market is currently. And it's nothing like it was 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's not like it was 6 months ago. And if you are a seller and you are thinking about selling your house and you're having that pricing conversation with your real estate agent, if they are not talking to you about how the market has changed right now versus how it was 2-3 months ago, heck, even 6 weeks ago, you do not have the right agent. So we know that new listings of homes for sale fell 15% in the first 4 weeks of August. We are also seeing the median asking price of newly listed homes dropped 5% from the record high set in May. And then it also dropped 6% from the record high set in June. And one of the things that is causing the demand for new houses to kind of cool off is mortgage rates. We're seeing a lot of volatility in mortgage rates. And last year, one of the things that kind of like drove the frenzy of buyers into the market was these really low interest rates. And that's why we had all this incredible pent up buyer demand wanting houses. And that's why buyers were willing to do anything that they could to get a house under contract. And some of those buyers, because that interest rate, rose by 2 percentage points, it's now caused that the houses that they were looking at last year, they no longer can afford them, or they can afford a much less house, and it's making it less desirable for them to enter the housing market. So they're retreating and they're not wanting to buy a house. But it's definitely a terrible thing whenever those sellers pull the house off the market. That's just awful.
It is. It's very frustrating. But, we've been having to have that conversation a lot with, people that are still looking to sell, whether they really need to or whether they're just trying to get to the next, step for them. And one of the things that we've really talked about is, Sarah, if you're selling your home, what are you about to do on the other side of that?
Yeah, I'm going to buy. I need somewhere to live.
Exactly. So if you're selling your house in a stabilized market, this is honestly a little bit safer of an environment because, last year, we were having a hard time getting any type of contingencies accepted. If you had a home to sell, forget it. That contingency was out of the question. Getting an appraisal or a due diligence period and inspection, questionable. 90% of the time, that was a no go. And so we're back to a stabilized market, a safer market where you are getting the liberty to do those things. You are able to go home and ask Tom, hey, what did you think about the house? Without me staring you in the face right at the home saying, all right, sir, you've got 5 minutes to make a decision. So while you're selling at a more reasonable value, you're also buying at a more reasonable value. And so, that's one of the things, like you just mentioned a few minutes ago, when we're looking at comps for homes. If your agent is pulling comps from earlier this year, because traditionally when we pull comps, we usually look at maybe the last couple of months. We're not able to do that. It's like the last couple of weeks. And so if your agent is pulling comps from earlier in the year, they're really doing you a disservice because they're setting you up to get the listing, but not to sell your home. So having that conversation up front is really important.
Yeah, so we have a scenario right now where we are working with a family here locally that's looking to do a both buy and a sell. And so, like you said, last year that was kind of like an unheard of thing that it was so incredibly difficult to get that buy side under contract. No way could you do it with a contingency. And yet, we are getting contracts accepted all the time right now in this market with contingencies of waiting for their home to sell. And so, I know you and I, this is a welcome thing. This change in the
Yes.
market, it is very, very welcome. It makes it a much easier and better process to work with our clients, you, our viewers that reach out to us to help them find a house here in Georgia. And it relieves a lot of pressure and it gives a much, much better experience.
Yes.
So if you have any questions about what the housing market like is here or any questions about moving to Georgia, make sure that you leave those for us in the comments. We would love to go ahead and answer those questions for you now. So you mentioned we have a little bit of a easier time getting clients under contract. So some of those things are we're seeing contingencies accepted. What else are you seeing that's making it easier to get buyers under contract right now compared to how it was 6 months ago?
So, I remember vividly, it was in the wintertime because I was freezing cold and I was literally standing in line to get into a house to see the interior with my buyers. They had flown in from Chicago to see this house. And we were, I think, like 16th or 17th in line to see this home because they could only allow so many people in at once because of COVID, obviously. And so I haven't stood in a line to sell a home since then. Thankfully, we're not seeing quite as many multiple offers. We're definitely still seeing them, but not to the degree that we were previously. We're not seeing $100,000 over asking, which was the norm. I remember vividly making an offer $110,000 over the list price, and I lost, and I was shocked. But nonetheless, we lost. So somebody bid higher than $110,000 over that list price. And so we're not seeing prices go quite that high. Those contingencies, those are a big deal. The appraisal contingency, which, this is a huge investment for you, probably the biggest investment that you've made to date. And so having that appraisal contingency is really important to protect your money. And a year ago, you weren't getting that. And now we're definitely getting those accepted. And we've even had a couple of homes to sell contingencies. Those are getting accepted more and more, which, most Americans are going from one home to the next and can't afford to, have mortgages for two homes. They don't qualify for that. So it's very, very challenging. And it's really scary when you're blindly going into a new purchase saying, I'm not going to have a contingency. And you're literally saying, if something happens, I'm on the hook for both, but I'll take that risk. And now you're able to kind of forego that and, not have as much risk on you.
Yeah. And so one of the things, so it's great that we're starting to see a little bit more flexibility in getting buyers under contract that have a home to sell. We also have a really great partner that we work with that will, if you do have a home to sell contingency and you want to kind of eliminate that risk for a potential seller, we do have a really, really great program that'll turn you into a cash buyer, and you can do a buy before you sell program. And those are all things that we talk about with you whenever we are working with you on planning your move and strategizing with you to figure out what is the best possible solution for you. So if you are watching at home right now, we would love for you to tell us where you are from and what are you seeing in the housing market where you are located right now. And I'd love to get your input on what is going on in your market. So Ashley, one of our viewers wrote in, sent us an email this week, and they wanted to know what is the one thing that you think buyers should know before moving to our area?
Whoa, that's a good question. What is the one thing that I think buyers should know before moving to our area? I think there's not really one thing. I think it's really important that people travel around the areas to make sure that they're getting the area that they like, because there are several communities or several cities, I should say, that are very close together. However, they're very, very different. And so making sure that you've come and you've done your due diligence of checking out the areas, I think is super important. And then making sure that you're checking taxes in different areas. For a lot of people moving into our state, our taxes are literally half of what they're paying elsewhere. So they're always shocked when they, we start looking at houses and they ask, okay, well, what are the taxes on this? And I tell them, they're like, that's it. And then the other thing would be HOAs. So we do have HOAs common here, and different HOAs allow different things. So if there is something that's really important to you, perhaps having a chicken or a goat, there's a lot of HOAs that are not going to allow that. So just making sure that we do our due diligence is really important.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So, one of the things that we do on this channel is we try to educate viewers about all the different, great areas around the Metro Atlanta, North Georgia area. And that does a really great job of kind of like helping you plant that seed and explore that idea. But nothing is going to compare to you actually getting in the car, being here. And,
Right.
we work with some clients who they're like, no, we have to be in this area. My wife has a job that starts in Brazelton, and we need to be within, a 30-minute drive of Brazelton. So,
Right.
obviously then that narrows down the area. But then oftentimes we speak with many of you who reach out and they're like, yeah, we want to move somewhere there, but we don't really know where. And we kind of like this area and this area. And so having that conversation with you and going through that consultation that we provide for you and really getting to know what's important to you and your family. And then for us to be able to say, okay, these are the areas that we really think you should go and explore and visit. And let's really narrow that down, I think is super important to kind of have that narrow focus, like you said, Ashley, of whenever we're helping people move to the area.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Karen has a question for us. She says, can I make an offer with contingency to sell my current, she currently lives in California.
Yep.
Can she make that a contingency right now? Does the contingency stretch out escrow? How far can it stretch? Great question.
Yeah. Hey, Karen. It's funny. I've actually been talking with her back and forth. So I'm so excited to see her on right now. It's so awesome. Um, Karen, yes, you can make an offer with a contingency for your home to sell. So there's two different ways that we write them up. Right now, your home is on the market, but your home has not gone under contract. So that would be, one where we are making that contingency, but we don't have your home under contract yet. So we would need to kind of let them know, like, hey, it hasn't gone under contract. We don't have an exact closing date yet. So it is a little bit riskier for the seller here, and they may or may not take that, but it's definitely something that we can offer to them. A lot of times for the seller here, we would make sure that we're showing them like that your home is priced appropriately. It's got great pictures, it's listed, compared to someone who's like, well, I'm thinking about listing my home. I haven't really started the process yet, because then you're a little premature to even make offers. Now, obviously, once your home goes under contract, it's definitely time to be making an offer, because that way you're not having to literally be homeless. Because if your home is going to close in 30 days and you don't have a home to come to here, that's a problem. So we definitely want to make sure that we're going ahead and making those offers. Sometimes what we will do if we're trying to get a home with, a contract with a home to sell contingency accepted, is we may make other concessions to the seller. Maybe we go in with a little bit higher purchase price, or maybe we put down a little bit extra earnest money to show good faith of like, hey, we're not just taking your home off of the market for no reason. We really are a serious buyer, and this is how we're going to show that.
Yeah, and I think another good thing to point out is that we know, Ashley and I, that whenever we are helping a buyer get a contract accepted with a contingency, it makes it so much easier if we have a relationship with the agent on the other side. And so if you're moving here locally, 9 times out of 10, that other agent is us. That's our team. We are helping also with that sell. But for you coming out of state, if we can partner you with a really, really great partner agent that we have in your area that is really well versed, and we partner together and really come up with that strategy to get your home under contract, to get that contingency accepted here. And it's a really streamlined process, and it makes it for a much, much better experience for you as a seller and buyer of someone that's relocating if we can be involved in partnering you with that agent there locally. And we also have some really great partnerships with investment companies and other types of buyers that may make you a really great competitive offer on your house without you even having to put it on the market, which then completely solves that problem for you relocating out of state.
Yeah, we actually just, what you mentioned, just did that with a young family that was coming from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And they didn't have an agent in New Jersey. They came down here first to kind of tour around. They weren't even really sure 100% that they were going to be moving to Georgia. They had just come down to kind of get an idea. And I'll never forget this family because I showed them property this year on Mother's Day. And Sarah, they showed up with flowers. Their son showed up with flowers and a card for me for Mother's Day.
Oh, that is precious.
And they were absolutely one of the best families. But so we were able to partner them with an agent in New Jersey. And so I was able to keep in touch with him throughout the entire transaction. So he was able to say, okay, we're going under contract. And I'm like, great, we're under contract. Can you try and get a closing date for this date? So that way we can coincide. And us working together made it absolutely seamless for them.
Yeah. And so normally what that conversation looks like is reach out to us, and then we will help make sure that you are partnered with a really fantastic agent that has an excellent, track record and sales record and knows what they're doing. The worst thing to do is get paired with someone that's brand new right out of the gate that doesn't know what they're doing. We have another question from Rob. He said, what is it like for foreign nationals getting mortgages? Do they have to build up a credit score, and how soon can they apply? Ashley, you are our resident experts with dealing with foreign nationals.
Yes. So that is kind of touchy. It really depends on, number one, the lender. So we have specific lenders that we partner with on this, that this is what they specialize in. It is a more challenging process, but it can be done. It really depends on what your credit was like out of country and how easy it is for them to port that credit over, because some countries you cannot do that. So we did have someone recently that came from England. We were able to partner them with our lender. They worked really hard together. He said it was an aggressive process because you're having to provide more documentation than you would for a normal loan. And it did take a little bit longer. Normal closing is 20 to 30 days. This one took about 45. And so but it can be done. We just had someone that's coming from Brazil, and unfortunately they were not able to do so just because of some of the documentation that they needed. They just didn't have that to provide yet. So they're going to be renting here for about 6 months. It is a little bit easier because they're staying with their same company. They're just transferring from one country to the next. So they're not having a gap in employment. They're able to verify that very easily. So it can be done, but it's tricky.
Yeah. Yeah. So always partnering with a great local lender that we have those great relationships with. So we'll help facilitate that for you. So if you're thinking about it and want to do that research, we would love to partner you with that lender. Great question, Rob. Thank you so much for asking that and watching and being with us today. And so please, if you have any questions for us, we would love to answer your questions just like we did for Karen and Rob. And so, Ashley, one of the things that that we have kind of heard in the media, so if you have been watching the headlines at all, everyone's talking about a housing recession. It's coming. It's here. The housing market is crashing. And you also see these dramatic headlines of that house prices have fallen 10% compared to last year, 5% month over month. And that kind of equates to the media talking about that, or people believing that house prices are coming down, that if they just wait a few more months, they're going to be able to save a lot of money. And so one of the things that I think is important for us to point out is that a recession does not mean falling prices. And if you look
Right.
back historically over the previous recessions that we've had, with the exception of 2008, let's kind of put that a little asterisk there because 2008 was a little bit crazy. Anyone breathing could get a really aggressive loan, and they were loaning more on houses than what they were actually worth.
Right.
But you can see this in 2020, house prices rose 6%, 2001, over 6.5%. 1981, 3.5%, 1980, 6%. So if you're waiting for house prices to fall, we have news for you. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we have not been seeing house prices come down. And this is really tricky again because I feel like a lot of people think that because they're not seeing these overinflated prices, that that means that the housing market is going into a recession. When in reality, if you look at things last year, if we listed it at fair market value, what took it over was the buyers. They were overbidding and competing with each other to get that price higher. So you might have seen a home that was valued at 600,000 close at 700,000, but that doesn't mean that the value, is at 700 based on what we're pulling. It was a value to that buyer because, the market tells us that a home is worth whatever someone will pay for it. But that doesn't mean that all of the houses around there are going to go up to that price point. So, if you look back to 2019, we were a really stable market. Interest rates were right around in the fives. Everybody was okay with that market. And then obviously when COVID hit, things just kind of got crazy. It's almost like we were driving down the highway at 100 miles an hour. And now, I don't know about you, but that makes me a little bit nervous to drive down the highway at that kind of speed. And now we've slowed down to a normal speed and a safe speed. We didn't slam into a wall and crash. We just slowed down back to a safe pace.
And so if I am someone that's watching the headlines and you're like, but Sarah, you just said at the top of this video, home prices, the median home price has slowed 6% compared to the previous month. Doesn't that mean home prices are falling? And I get that. It's very confusing. And one of the things to know is that you have some agents that are still pricing their homes as if it was 6 months ago, and they're going for these aggressive prices. Or it may not even be the agent going after that aggressive price. It could be the seller. The seller is still thinking that it's an amazing time to sell, and it is still a good time to sell, but they have these unrealistic expectations for the prices. So when we see a price reduction or price cuts in a house, it's really just bringing that home price back in alignment with where the true market value is and where it should be today, rising at a much normal appreciation of 5%, 6% versus the 20% appreciation that we were seeing last year, year over year, and month over month.
And I think to that point of what you just said, a lot of people, if your agent is not educating you on the market, and I say this because even back in 2021, you and I would look at what something was listed for and then what that home sold for. So it was listed at fair market value, and then the buyers took that up and over. So a lot of sellers now are looking at what a home closed for. They're not looking what it was originally listed for. And in a normalized, stable market, it would have sold for what they listed. And so that's where you really have to pull your data. You can't compare what it sold for when you had 60 people waiting in line to outbid each other for that property, because that's not the current market today. But as a seller, when you turn around and you sell that home with us, and then you go to purchase a home with us, you're going to really appreciate the market that you're in now, because it's not going to be as aggressive as it was a year ago. There were so many times where we had clients that were moving here and we lost quite a few offers before getting ours accepted, because there was just such an abundance of buyers competing with one another. And so now you'll still have a little bit of competition, but nothing like it was. And it's just a better overall experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely better, easier. And so if you have any questions about moving to Georgia and what the current market is like, we would love to answer those questions. Please leave us a comment below. And we so appreciate you spending your Wednesday evening with us here on YouTube Live. And so one of the questions that we got is, if y'all had to move to a different town than the ones you currently live in, where would you go? I think I know Ashley's answer.
Go ahead. What is it?
You're going to move to Alpharetta.
I would love to move to Alpharetta.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask my husband that, I'll never get there.
Yeah, that's funny. No, Alpharetta is a really, really great place to live. Where would I move? Good question.
You live in a great place, though. You're right on the water.
Yeah, it is good. Maybe to a better lake house.
Right. Stay close.
Yeah, I would love to have a cabin in the mountains. So one of the things that I love about being here in Georgia, and specifically where we're at in north of Atlanta, is that you are so close to the mountains. And on the weekends, especially in the fall and winter, going hiking, it's so easy just to get in the car and drive an hour, and you have hundreds of hiking trails at your fingertips that you can go through. But I love hiking along babbling creeks of water, and I love seeking out waterfalls. So if I could have a cabin near one of those places, or with water in the background, some sort of stream or creek, I would love to have a weekend place for that.
But would you live there, or would you just visit there?
I would just visit there. That's not for me year round. I need to be near a Target. I like grocery stores. Yes. But it would be a great place to go on the weekends. That's
yeah, definitely. It's apple picking season coming up here soon. So my kids and I will be heading out to the apple orchards up in the mountains to pick all of the apples. It's just a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing. It's not my thing, though. I would just rather go buy the apples at the store. But
well, no, it's not the same. It's not the same. Especially, okay, I will give you that if you go to Jaymore right there, off of, what is that, 985, and
yes.
all of the things that they have. That's definitely a place that I like to hit up often.
So Jaymore is a huge kind of like farmer's market, farm stand, but it's huge. And it's got this amazing store, and they sell really fresh produce, and they have apples there and peaches, and during the right season. But they have a really, really great baked goods section as well. And so they make these fried pies. They call them hand pies. And anytime we're in the area showing houses, like, it's always a must stop for me. And I bring home a box of those pies, and Tom really loves it.
Have you ever tried their fresh strawberry ice cream?
I have not.
You're missing out.
But they do have really great boiled peanuts there. And so growing up in South Georgia, you could find boiled peanuts, like a boiled peanut stand on the corner of any like cross section in the middle of nowhere. There'd be this guy in a big old beat up truck, and there's a big old pot of something on a pot of peanuts. That's what he's selling, right? So I missed that. There's a few of those places around here in the North Georgia area whenever you're driving around. But I always like going to Jaymore because you can get boiled peanuts there.
Yes.
This has turned into a commercial for boiled peanuts in Jaymore.
Or Jaymore Farms.
Yeah. So like I said, we would love to answer questions that you may have about the Georgia real estate market. I will share one other thing that I found is that another interesting thing about a recession is that mortgage rates typically fall during a recession. So I think it's very interesting for us to see what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months with mortgage rates. They've been kind of on a volatile path over the past couple of weeks. At one point, they were down in the low fives, and now we're back around the mid fives. But historically, a recession means that mortgage rates are going to fall.
I would disagree. It's a personal thing. Obviously, everybody has their different beliefs, but I don't personally think that we're going to see mortgage rates in the twos again, especially anytime soon. But I will be surprised if we see them ever again. If you look at history, they have never fallen to that level. And so a lot of people, I feel like, especially some of the younger generation that's coming into the market, the real estate market, buying homes in the last couple of years, this is kind of all they've known and all they've seen. But if you look at history, we've never had rates that low. And those rates were put into place to kind of jumpstart the economy again. And it worked, and it did everything that it was supposed to. And we were able to hit the ground running and start moving again. I do not think that we're going to see rates plummet. There's also, I'm sure you guys have heard it, marry the house, date the rate. So if you see a house that you love, you can almost guarantee it's going to continue to rise in value. We're not going to see it rise at the rates that we did last year, but we're going to continue to see a rise in value. So you're going to spend more next year for that house than you would right now. Where with interest rates, let's say they do plummet next year or 2024, you can always refinance and get a different rate, a better rate, if you will. You'll never be able to get that equity that you lost by waiting back. Does that make sense?
Complete sense. And let's just say interest rates do not fall, but house prices do.
Right.
It would take a 10% drop in houses and a 1% increase in interest rate, and you would still end up paying more, even though the home price has dropped 10%. And so for clients, sometimes when you're having these conversations of like, oh, I have flexibility in my time frame, and I think I'm just going to wait until next year, home prices may drop.
Right.
So that may be true, but interest rates are more than likely going to increase. And like Ashley said, even if they don't increase, you can always refinance the current rate that you're able to lock in now. And that's, a great, easy thing to do. And of course, there's a multitude of factors that you're going to, that goes into making that decision. But it's really great advice. And we're seeing that now, right? Interest rates have risen. And so people that could afford last year, they can't afford anymore because the interest rate has risen.
Yes and no. So yes, absolutely. However, what we're also seeing, the flip side of that is, again, last year, a home was listed at $500,000 and it ended up selling for $610,000, $650,000. So you had to come up with $150,000 in cash because the home wouldn't appraise for that. So you had to come up with $150,000 in cash to pay the difference on that. So yes, your interest rate was lower, but you were paying more for the house and you had to have cash to come to closing.
Yeah.
Now the interest rate is higher, but you're not having to come to closing with that amount and you're not having to compete and go so far over. So yes, your buying power on paper as far as mortgage rates has risen a little bit because mortgage rates has risen, or I'm sorry, your buying power has dropped a little bit because rates have risen. However, it's a lot, there's more opportunity for you to be able to purchase without all of the competition.
Yeah, very true. Amit says that he was targeting Beaufort as a place to move. It is known to have less inventory. Do you still advise that I wait for market correction or jump in now to purchase? Beaufort is an anomaly, right?
Right. There's kind of like, there's one Beaufort, but it's kind of divided into two, if you will. So there's Beaufort and then there's Beaufort City. So Beaufort City has the Beaufort City schools that a lot of people are seeking. It looks like a college campus. It's absolutely stunning. They are incorporated, and so they do not necessarily follow all of the countywide and statewide things that some of the other schools follow. And so that's why a lot of people are seeking, those schools. Jefferson City is another one that's similar. So in Beaufort City, yes, it is always recession, no recession, COVID, no COVID. It's always harder to find homes in Beaufort City District. Beaufort as a whole, there's definitely still opportunity there. We've actually had two clients recently, the ones I was telling you about earlier from New Jersey. They purchased kind of over behind the Mall of Georgia, which is a beautiful Beaufort area. And then we have another one that just is actually under contract this week So I definitely still think that there's opportunity. We've even got some builders now where last year, they would basically shut the door in your face and say, sorry, I don't have anything. And now we're getting, calls of, hey, we have a little bit of standing inventory if you have anybody that's looking. So I would definitely say I would jump in.
Yeah, definitely jump in and meet. If we're not already helping you, we would love to be your realtors of choice of helping you find that Buford home. For anybody watching, if you're thinking about making a move to Georgia, you can find our contact information below this video, or you can reach out to us at hello@keypointhomesgroup.com. And we would love to get in touch with you and learn more about your potential move and how we can help you. So we are so appreciative of everyone that took the time to watch and ask questions tonight. We look forward to seeing you back here again next Wednesday. We will be back here Wednesday at 6 o'clock. That's the time that we do this. And we have one last comment. Let's see here. Miss Bless.
LJ.
Yeah, Ella J is beautiful. Those cabins, log homes are stunning. We have to agree with you. They are
That's where
absolutely
we go
stunning.
apple picking.
Yes, yes, for sure. And so we are so excited that you were spent time with us tonight. We'll be back here again next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And we post videos every single Sunday about what is going on in our area and educating you about the area. And of course, if we can help you in between, or if you're thinking about making a move, reach out to us. Our contact information is below this video, and we would love to help you. So until next week, we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.